Do you blame people who don't hire family members?
I don't blame anyone for anything. I think
Because to avoid, I think, this whole conflict, you're probably good by staying away from family members.
I think I make it clear from the beginning. I'm hiring you not because I know you. I'm hiring you not because you're my blood. I'm hiring you because you're competent. And that is the condition for hiring. From the very inception of the whole process is clear. So when I'm firing you, I'm not also firing you in relation for...
Would you tell that to your wife?
Yes.
You
I work with my fiance. She's an interpreter,
Guys,
and she's a trainer. Yeah.
The fiance.
Yeah, and
things
when
have
we
changed from before this
let's
year.
focus. And when we go to train, I mean, professionalism is clear.
Yeah.
We're at work. We are trying to make the next meal, right? So let's let's be sober. And in some trainings, I know are areas of specialty. In some trainings, I don't bring her along. I get someone else because I know you're not the strongest here. You could be able to wing it. You're great, right? But this one, let's work. And she totally understands, right? And after training, we sit down and we have feedback. And I'm like, you did this, you did. She also gives me feedback. You were too fast here. You didn't allow me to interpret, it's clear.
Now I see why you engaged her.
Right, but I really feel like if you're running a business, you cannot run it based on what your family would say. Like
And
criticism and judgment from your family. If you adjust yourself to that, if every time your auntie or uncle has an opinion, you adjust your business accordingly, you will fail immediately. Most people will never even set up. It's like listening to your broke uncle for financial advice, right? Just don't. It's
Your broke uncle.
why would you listen to broke people for financial advice? Listen to someone who knows how to make money.
Experts.
Someone who's an expert, absolutely.
94.3 Royal FM, the heartbeat of Kigali, is what you're listening to this morning, and we're back with our peeps. It's Living Entrepreneurship on Tuesday, and Festus and Rebecca are here as well. Good morning, Festus.
Good morning.
I'm being impolite. I should have started with a lady. Good morning, Rebecca.
Good morning, Jules.
Love your green dress.
Thank
Floral.
you.
Is that floral though?
It's leafy.
It's leafy.
It's Sonia Mugabo. She's good with fabrics.
Who?
Sonia Mugabo.
But this is made in Rwanda as well?
Yes.
No way.
You know,
Rebecca.
like 90% of my clothes.
No, your clothes is
are
entirely made in
Rwanda.
The print is like coffee beans.
It looks like coffee beans. That's true. Yeah.
The greenish.
Looks good, really.
Thank
How are you today?
So good.
Again, we're late, but let's try and push through this very fast. And this conversation is very interesting because today's conversation is going to focus on family business, family war, why blood doesn't always mean harmony. I know, family business means family war. So in family-led business, are we more prone to actually conflict, or do we see managers or parents and siblings? That gets me asking. What do we do? Do we, when in a family-led business? Because you see, a lot of people in Rwanda actually are doing family business. A lot of them, by the way, if you've noticed, right? If you go to the city and we move around, you realize that it's a family business that has been there for years and years and years. Some have stayed, some have failed to stay. And that gets me asking a few questions here. Are family-run business naturally more prone to conflict than non-family businesses?
Yeah, so I would say it always depends on the case, right? There's always going to be cases that are not supportive of whatever we're talking about here. But I would say in general, family conflict is inevitable, but business conflict can be managed. It can be avoidable, but it really requires clear roles and strong boundaries. The problem becomes if we get into this almost like the Nepo baby nepotism, and then you end up having someone hired just because of their family name, and they'll show up to the so-called job interview with nothing prepared apart from their last name, right? And it can be very unfortunate because it creates entitlement, and entitlement erodes excellence every time. So it's really about figuring out, do you have your family on board? Are they willing to pitch in? Are they willing to see this business as something that they want to take responsibility for? Or are they just there for the paycheck? And I think those two different cases, they really show how family business can be successful if handled and managed properly, or they can also just, crash and burn. So what I always recommend is that you have very, very clear job descriptions. So even though that you're a family member, there is an expectation to what you do and how you handle yourself in the business. And if you feel some sort of entitlement over other employees who are not family members, that creates, and if you allow that to happen from a management perspective, that creates a very unfortunate culture where people that are not family are going to feel like second range employees and do all of the work and not be seen. So if you're able to create these very clear job roles, very clear expectations, and have very strong boundaries where family issues stay at home, they're not being brought to work, for example. You have very clear boundaries around, if this is your responsibility, you live up to that responsibility, or you will leave the business. You need to be able to fire your family just like you would anyone else.
So, Rebecca, in the African setting, or let's say Kigali setting, not necessarily family member qualifies for that job. They actually don't qualify for that job, but they are not doing anything at home. And you feel like you need to actually empower them. You need to give them a job. That's how people get jobs. And that's why you realize families are working together. Family members exist in business. How do you deal with that? Just because you feel like I need to create something to do for the other person who is a family member who is not doing anything, I will just throw them in the business.
And just add a bit, in case you don't employ them, you'll face criticism from your relatives.
Right, but I really feel like if you're running a business, you cannot run it based on what your family would say. Like criticism and judgment from your family, if you adjust yourself to that, if every time your auntie or uncle has an opinion, you adjust your business accordingly, you will fail immediately. Most people will never even set up. It's like listening to your broke uncle for financial advice, right? Just don't. It's
your broke uncle.
Why would you listen to broke people for financial advice? Listen to someone who knows how to make money.
Experts.
Someone who's an expert, absolutely.
Festus, what is your take?
On which?
on this question here that I asked earlier, are family-run businesses naturally more prone to conflict or other non-family businesses?
I think that every business is prone to conflict.
Yes, absolutely.
And when the requirement for conflict is relationships, right? It's hard for us to have conflict. I mean, it won't make much sense if we are not together, or if we don't work together, or if we don't live together. So wherever there are relationships, conflict is prone to happen, whether it's a family business or any other kind of business. But yes, I understand that in family businesses, conflicts are personal. Like more personal than in an ordinary corporate setting. Yeah. If I run a family business and we have a conflict, the conflict does not clock out at 5. You see the point? It rides home with you. It sits at the dinner table with you, and that's what makes it more fragile or crucial. So I think maturity is very important in such a setting, to be able to understand that we are doing business, and that is different from the family we are running. Because when we're doing a business, we need to understand, I think it goes back to what a family business is. If I am a family member and I start a business, does that make it a family business, right? We need to be able to come together to say, as a family or as a name, right, we're trying to build an empire or build a legacy.
But first, us in the African setting, when my brother owns
I know.
we own a business.
That's why I'm trying
our business.
That's why I'm trying to correct that. Because if I own a business, does not make it a family business, right? Just because I'm a family member does not. Even when we are building a family business, sometimes there are family members we don't invite.
Yeah.
Right? If we see that you're not consistent, you're not competent, you're not loyal, you are somebody who borrows money and never pays back, you're somebody who does not show up, you don't care about the legacy we're building, you are not supposed to be in that. So we can still have a family business with a fraction of the family members, because these are people who care about legacy, these are people who care about structure, and they are competent enough. So I think when we build it from that angle, conflict will be understood as conflict, and we'll deal with it as professionals or as matured people, as opposed to using it as an emotional blackmail to say, you did this to me at the office, so I'm not giving you food.
I'm not driving back home with you. So how can family ties influence decision making in business, positively or negatively?
The problem becomes sorry.
No, go on, Rebecca.
The problem becomes if you have, especially if you have different hierarchy in the family and a different hierarchy in the business. So let's say that the dad at home, right, the king of the household, is not the king of
Head
the
of
business,
the family.
right? If the head of the family is
It's not
not
the
the
head
head
of
of
the
the business,
Mm.
he's gonna feel entitled to make decisions in the business, and that's one of the reasons why I say it's really important to have very, very clear job roles. If you have the younger brother sets up the business and hires the older brother, it's going to be really, really difficult because the hierarchy is different at home versus in the business. So, and this,
No, I've had that experience. I had my older sibling, and they could not report to me. They felt like they were older even in my business.
but then the problem again comes,
was
it
really
comes to
hard.
maturity. And I
Yes.
think that's really
Yeah.
a great word to describe it, because if you're not able to put aside everything from home, when you step into the office, then you're going to have a lot of issues in the office, and it's going to negatively impact the business, right? So entitlement doesn't pay salaries. The results
Not
do,
at all.
right? Imagine if entitlement would pay salaries. We would all be
We
so
would all-
rich. But the thing is, we need to make sure that the survival of the business comes first. And that's why whenever you hire people into the business, you need to make it clear these are the requirements for you when you're here, when you show up. And if you're not able to do that, I just don't think that this is the right space for you, because our business needs to be the first priority when we're here.
Festus, is it harder to actually fire or even discipline a family member when they underperform?
It's hard to fire anybody.
Yes.
No, but for
Right.
family, it's a little
But
bit
definitely,
different.
I say absolutely yes. It's hard to fire a family member because you see, you're telling firing is mostly about performance, right? And when we're firing, most of the time we're trying to say that you have not been able to meet the target.
You're underperforming.
Yeah, you have underperformed. Now, in a family, you are telling that to somebody who was at your wedding. Right? Or maybe even helped to plan your wedding. You are saying that to somebody who was on your bed last night, right? So that it makes it very
A bed
critical.
meaning your partner.
Yeah,
Okay.
your partner, right? And maybe, like she said, if the hierarchy is even different, like than in the business than in the house or in the home, it makes it even more difficult. Imagine having to fire your father or your husband, right?
I know.
But
So-
also imagine firing your nephew and then the nephew's mom or dad, who's your brother, comes
Exactly.
knocking on your door.
Yeah.
Like,
What
you
in the
fired my
world?
child.
Why did you do that?
That just
Has
creates
any of
a
you
lot
watched
of-
Succession?
No.
I didn't see
You
it.
need to watch Succession. It's an interesting series to look. It has
Family.
something to do family business and all that. It's interesting.
Yeah, but I think that most times we, like you were saying, in the African setting, we try to put people. I think in any business setting, actually, when there's family involved, we keep people, the wrong people, in the right position
Yeah.
because they share our last name, and maybe we are afraid to hold them accountable, or we are they are felt entitled.
We actually we get entitled.
Yeah,
As
they've
family
gotten
members. You know that?
like correction, like somebody, because they share the last name, they are immune to correction.
Yeah.
Right? Who are you to tell me?
But it can also go the other way around. It can also be that the manager or the business owner wants to make it very clear to the entire organization that they do not play favors, and now they're putting the family member in an even harder position.
In a harder position.
Just to
yeah.
show
They
the rest
crucify
of the
him,
exactly.
for example.
And just to show I'm not playing any favors here, and that also creates a very difficult culture. So when there is this mix of non-family members and family members, it handling the company culture becomes so much more difficult because there's just so much complexity in it, and there's just so many different ways that it can go wrong, which again just comes back to strong boundaries and clear roles.
So do you blame people who don't hire family members?
I don't blame anyone for anything. I think
Because to avoid, I think, this whole conflict, you're probably good by staying away from family members.
I think I make it clear from the beginning. I'm hiring you not because I know you. I'm hiring you not because you're my blood. I'm hiring you because you're competent. And that is the condition for hiring. From the very inception of the whole process is clear. So when I'm firing you, I'm not also firing you in relation for...
Would you tell that to your wife?
Yes. I work with my fiance. She's an interpreter
Guys,
and she's a trainer. Yeah.
The fiance.
Yeah, and
things
when
have
we
changed from before this
let's
year.
focus. And when we go to train, I mean, professionalism is clear.
Yeah.
We're at work. We are trying to make the next meal, right? So let's be sober. And in some trainings, I know has areas of specialty. In some trainings, I don't bring her along. I get someone else because I know you're not the strongest here. You could be able to wing it. You're great, right? But this one, let's work. And she totally understands, right? And after training, we sit down and we have feedback. And I'm like, you did this, you did. She also gives me feedback. You were too fast here. You didn't allow me to interpret, it's clear.
Now I see why you engaged her. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Spiro isn't just transport. It's a better way to move. Reliable, comfortable, and built for everyday life. From your daily ride to your next big opportunity, Spiro is creating jobs, supporting drivers, and helping build a cleaner, greener Rwanda. Spiro, if it's effortless and comfortable, it's Spiro. Spiro, moving Rwanda forward.
.3 the heartbeat of Kigali is what you're listening to. Living Entrepreneurship Fastest together with Rebecca, Angelo, and I. We're here, and they are the experts in entrepreneurship. They are the senior experts. They know these things better.
They are the go-to people.
I have a concern though, which is totally. You see, usually what we're speaking of off the microphone. Usually we get to crucify our family members. Sometimes our family members work like collateral damage in a company. By the way, on the other side of it, you realize that because it's your brother who is in that sector, and because you want to pin the colleague down, but you use your brother as collateral damage. Does that happen a lot? You guys have seen that?
I mean, it can happen.
Doesn't it lack of professionalism?
The thing is that we're human beings, right? And we have been with this family member maybe for our entire lives. And there's a set dynamic, which can be maybe even it formed in childhood. So now you see your brother or your cousin and they do something that annoyed you so much when you were a kid, and now you're the boss and you get to actually put them in place. And it might be that you end up having a very skewed relationship, that you wouldn't have done that with any other employee than with this family member. And what is just important, which is always the case in leadership, is that we need to observe ourselves. We need to pay attention to, why am I acting the way that I am? Am I being fair? Am I being triggered? Am I being emotionally impacted? And I would always say, don't make decisions and don't take action while you're feeling emotional, because very likely you're going to make decisions and take action that you wouldn't otherwise have done. So if you're feeling triggered because your cousin or your brother is doing something that you hated when you were a kid, maybe not start yelling at them or making an example at them while you're feeling emotional.
I want to ask about leadership, because decisions are taken by leaders. Now, should leadership in a family business or family businesses be earned through merit or passed down through the bloodline?
I think there's not really any right or wrong in that sense. It comes down to qualifications, right? Like Festus said before, you get this job because you're qualified. You get this job because you're really good at what you do. And when it comes to that, we can't be talking about, is it because it's a spouse or is it a cousin or is it definitely adds complexity. And then again, it comes down to boundaries and responsibilities.
I think I've seen someone who has hired the wife as a human resource, but she does not qualify as a human resource. She does not have those qualifications whatsoever.
It's very common for corporates to downplay the role of human resource.
Yeah.
They think it's just this kind of cute little role that can be taken on by anything
HR.
and anyone. But HR is
HR.
really the core of
It
the
is.
culture.
Yeah.
It is the core of the people. So it's a role that really needs to be taken seriously. And if you hire someone, in my opinion, if you hire someone for HR, an HR position, especially head of HR, and they're not qualified, then you're doing your entire business a huge disservice.
No, she's my partner. She's my wife.
Then give her a role with something that she can actually fulfill, something where she's
Festus,
qualified.
what is your take?
But not critical.
I mean, I've seen that a
People
lot
are
as
hired
well.
on merit, or it's just because
No, I think that leadership should never be about bloodline. If the blood opens the door, competence should keep the lights on.
That's a good one.
You're so good with these.
Where do you get this one?
I think it's the pastor experience.
Yeah.
I think so. It's the ministerial touch. So I think so, definitely. Like, it should not be that I am your sibling, or I am, because I was reading, I can't remember, I think it was the Jewish business economy or something. I was reading something and I saw that, I read that, and again, I stand corrected on this one, I need to verify, but it says like 60 to 70% of businesses, right, of the economy is run by family businesses, and only 30% of those businesses make it to the second generation, and 12% make it to the third, and about 3% make it to the fourth. So if you hand down the leadership based off of bloodline only, right, it means that by the time you get to the fifth generation, the business has collapsed. There's no legacy anymore, right? So it's very important to, when you are giving out leadership roles, you're thinking about legacy, you're thinking about sustainability, and you put in the right person there, irrespective of whether or not they are connected to you. Yeah.
Does it, but doesn't also maybe take away the fact that some family businesses ought to employ other people who can run the businesses on behalf of the families?
Yeah, clearly. I think sometimes, but it depends on the structure at the inception, right? Some family businesses, like, depending on how big the family is, they can say, we keep it, this is a family thing, we only employ families. But most times that does not stand. Because
I don't think it's legal either.
See, right? I don't think it's legal. It's legal because you cannot have everybody within the business, right, from your family. You might not have all the skill set you need. Yeah. And I think I know somebody who they hire the family member at the very top, and then they hire other people to do the job. For example, finance, you make your wife the head of finance, and then you have other people just to monitor the money so that you know exactly what's going on.
But then the problem becomes if the wife doesn't know anything about finance.
We've got to give it up to family-owned business that have lived there for centuries. I mean, things like Ford, Walmart, they have been there forever, and still under family, running under family companies. That takes a lot to actually sustain such kind of businesses.
But I think also it comes from early conditioning. If you know from your kid that you will probably be working in this business, I'm going to be taking over, and these are the requirements. Exactly, these are the requirements that I will have to fulfill, and that is made very clear from the beginning. You need to be excellent in this role. Like I said, entitlement erodes excellence. So if we can remove the focus on the entitlement and then focus on how do I become the best possible person for this organization. Now you're training people from their kids. And then obviously you're going to end up having some pretty strong employees because they've been in the business since they were children. So that's a very different way of going about it. I think that the danger really becomes when it's just, let's just hire this person because he needs something to do. And we don't mentor him, and we don't set boundaries for him, and we don't create, people also, they want to be motivated, right? People actually want to do a good job. There's nothing fun with showing up at a job where you feel like you're just there because you have a last name and you don't actually have a function. I think it's important for everyone that they're challenged and that they're mentored and that they find their place in that organization.
Interesting. One more last question, which is because we're running out of time, it's already 9. Anyway, can professionalism survive where emotions and relationships run deep?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can, because professionalism is not being cold. It's been clear. I don't know, that just came. But yeah, I think it's clarity, right? It's setting boundaries. I think
principles.
Yeah. Yesterday I heard something. Somebody told me, if you don't allow me to think about it, if you don't set a clear line, if you don't draw a clear line about your boundaries and your principles, people will draw a circle and put you in it. and they will hold you accountable for getting out of that circle. And they will draw a circle, and I realized, because a line is pretty straight, like these are the standards, these are the boundaries, this is what is acceptable, this is not. But when you leave it flexible, you're like, oh, we are family members, we are friends, let's just flow.
Can't fire them.
Yeah, I can't fire them. Then the space, the room for error becomes bigger and bigger, and that becomes problematic. So I think we can be professional, but it goes back to structure, it goes back to leadership and standards, and even personality, right? I remember when I graduated, there was a man that really cared about me. He came to my graduation. He was like, I see you like a son, you're so amazing. And then he hired me. Right?
Just like that?
No, I mean, I flew back home, and then I came back to Ghana, and he was like, come work for me. And I was like, sure. The money was good. I went there. I studied computer science. So I went there, and I realized I had nothing to do. He just wanted to see me around.
You had nothing
I see
you
you
were
as my
delivering.
sign.
I had an office. I had a
It
laptop.
was sympathy.
But your relevance wasn't seen there.
No, I
didn't
felt
feel it.
like, man, I went to a good school. I have some good qualifications, but I'm pretty useless here. All he tells me is, go print this, go copy this.
You felt unutilized.
Yeah, go to our farm and kill a goat.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
did all that because I was like an errand boy. And then one day I stood up and I'm like, nah,
this is not what I did.
I don't want this.
I didn't study for this.
And it was hard for me to tell him I want to go. So I told him I want to go to school. He told me, I will send you to school. You wait. I want to. So I literally created, like I applied to ALU. Then, of course, I got in as a facilitator. And then I was like, I'm going to do a program, a professional program. That's how he let me go. And that's how sometimes family members, I mean, he's not my blood, but he really saw me as a son, right? And family members can hold you in a place. It goes back to your personality, right? And your own dreams and aspiration. What do you want to do, right? Are you comfortable with just having a paycheck, or you want to create an impact?
Interesting. What are your final remarks? Someone has just sent a message and said, Jules is trying to justify that leadership is sexually transmitted. Did I even say anything like that?
No, I don't think so. I think,
Rebecca, what are your final remarks?
I would say that it's so important to get to know ourselves, and it's so important to observe and then see when are we actually acting in alignment with the person that we want to be. And this is a recurring theme that I always bring up. And I think it's very important to understand also the difference between the conscious and the subconscious mind. And my TEDx was just released, and I bring this up, and I think you should all go watch it if you're interested in the conscious versus subconscious mind, because I bring up some pretty cool analogies that we don't have time for now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But go check that, because I feel like it's such a big part of leadership is being really honest with ourselves. And it's so easy for us to be emotionally driven and then justify it with logic. And what very often happens is that we end up with a lot of old conflict showing up in the business place, and it just does not have a place there, right? So and we can all do our part by getting to know ourselves better, and as we know ourselves better, we get to learn more about other people, because we understand in a deeper way what is driving how they're feeling. We get to see, instead of saying, oh, this person said this and that, now they're yelling and throwing things, is like, why is this person triggered? Right? And taking it from that stance. Why is this person triggered? How would I want to be talked to when I'm triggered? Probably not by also throwing stuff and yelling, right? Is how do we de-escalate this? And in order for that to be really effective, we have to look at ourselves first and see, how do I experience these things? And I think when it comes to family businesses, that is so much more important, because there's just so much entanglement.
And so much emotions.
There's so much emotion. There's so much history that is being brought into the place.
Festus.
I think that it's not all bad, right? And like you said, we've seen family businesses that really thrive and do well, right? But leadership is key. We don't put people there because we know them. We put people there because they're great, right? And they're the best fit for the role, right? And whether you are the leader of the family business or you are just in the family business, I think we should carry that mentality, right? It's very important. And sometimes love can ask you to step aside. Not because we don't value you, but because we value what we are building.
Sometimes love can ask you to step aside. Wow, that's a good one. Thank you very much, Festus and Rebecca. We'll see you next week.
From around the world in 3 minutes, the news update.